coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. I want to tell you what Hamas's demands were for a ceasefire with Israel. I'm not going to go through all 30 or so points. I'm just going to go hit the highlights so one can see how absurd their demands are, which basically are close to an unconditional surrender on the part of Israel. Okay? Let's start with they want to return the hostages whose names we don't have. We don't know how many are alive, how many are sick. They never gave the medicine to them that Qatar delivered to them, and they never let the Red Cross see them. We have no idea how many of these hostages there are that are alive. So they want a phased return of some hostages. They want Israel to withdraw from Gaza completely, or at least they want a complete withdrawal. They want a permanent ceasefire after what they did on October 7th. Not only did they attack and kill people and burn them alive and rape the women, they also launched many thousands of rockets at us for no reason other than they wanted to kill us. They want us to release someplace between, well, it's probably about 5,000 terrorists that are in jail in Israel. They want us to bring them 50,000 housing units a month over 3 months. They want to get heavy equipment to reconstruct Gaza, which means rebuild the tunnels. They want all their borders open unconditionally so their people could just stroll into Israel and kill more people when the urge hits them. They want a plan to rebuild all the damage in Gaza for over 3 years. They want Israel to make sure they supply electricity, water, and cell phone and internet to them. They don't say they're going to pay for it. And let me think. Well, I think you got the absurdity of the matter, right? The reason Israel won't do a phased return of the hostages is because they'll return the first batch of hostages, which are non-military people under the age of 19 and over the age of 50 and the sick. Then they'll start the negotiations all over again. And everybody that lives in Israel knows that's how they are. Okay? So that's not happening. Biden publicly said that the demands of Hamas were a little over the top. I think he should have said it was tantamount to an unconditional surrender from Israel and having Israel pay war reparations to Hamas when they started the war. Israel's not going to do this. The people of Israel would overthrow the government if anything like this developed, okay? They'd never put up with it. You'd see millions of people going down there to get Netanyahu and rip the Knesset apart. I mean, it'd be a joke. They're never going to do it. They also want international monitoring with several countries, Russia, Qatar, and some others, to enforce the ceasefire that Israel doesn't come back at them. Of course, this international alliance to maintain the peace would probably not do anything if they shot rockets at us. The big question now is you have to ask yourself, what does Biden do? Let's look at his options. One is nothing, and the Israeli war against Hamas and Gaza continues without stopping. This will cause more attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria, which can likely expand to other areas of the Middle East. The Houthis have continued their attacks. The American bombing and the British bombing of them, as I told you, would be worthless in terms of stopping the attacks, and they're still continuing the attacks, and America and the UK are still continuing the bombings as of last night. It's not going to work. They can do it another 10 times. It's still not going to work. 20 times. It's still not going to work. The only way to stop the Houthis is with a ground invasion, which is probably going to require 100,000 troops, of which America would probably have to fork up 50 to 60,000 of those. The coalition would probably come up with the remainder. Lebanon would keep doing the war. The Iranians would expand with more ship interdictions in the Persian Gulf, Sea of Oman, and Indian Ocean, I'm sure. And Iran will work to close the Straits of Gibraltar. Quiet. Close the Straits of Gibraltar, cutting off shipping between the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean. The Houthis, having recently threatened to cut the internet cables, which will also cut the international banking cables, is probably going to proceed. The Hamas is playing on hoping their friends come to help them in Gaza, which the Houthis... Shut up! Which the Houthis have already threatened to do. They would have to get transit through Saudi Arabia to do that. Saudi Arabia said they'll normalize relations with Israel, I think yesterday or today, if we end the Gaza war and begin to work on a two-state solution, which is never going to happen. So Biden has to ask himself what he wants to do. One of Biden's options is to help Israel with Hamas for real. This can take the form, realistically, of more military aid, but the Congress didn't pass this $17.6 billion aid package. They want aid for Ukraine as well. And they want to see first a realistic border control policy from Biden, which has not yet happened at all. The thing that he was proposing was theater of the absurd. Giving the illegal immigrants, as they call them, even though they file for asylum, which makes them legal, they're referred to as illegal, giving them work permits within 1 or 2 weeks, and also giving them accelerated approved asylum status, which could be, again, another 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks instead of, 6 or 8 or 10 years to get to court and get it approved. So nobody's taking that seriously. There also was talk from the Biden side of a guaranteed minimum income for everybody in America, including the asylum seekers that filed for asylum. It'd probably be $1,200 a month. And this isn't going anywhere. So Biden's proposal is just noise. So helping Israel with more aid and assistance seems to be off the table. In other words, they can't say, here's, 75 jets, here's 5,000 bombs, here's 70,000 artillery shells, That they can't do, but they can join into the attack. All they have to do is say, well, Hamas or their affiliates were involved in attacking American bases during the over 100 attacks on American bases, therefore we're going after them. That would fly. Ditto for Lebanon. Biden could say that the Hezbollah that did the attack in Jordan and also the attacks in Syria and Iraq are Hezbollah like Hezbollah in Lebanon, and we're going after Lebanon, Hezbollah, and actually engage in the fighting with Israel or on behalf of Israel. This could be a way of stopping the problems with the attacks on the American bases and the Houthis interdicting shipping. Now, the way it would work is Hamas totally loses the war and they no longer have control over Gaza. And Israel has a buffer zone of 1 kilometer deep into Gaza. Yeah, 50-50 if it would stop the Houthis in Iran. If they see it's all lost and over, they could throw in the towel, but I doubt they would. They would just step it up. So Biden has no good remedy for this. His plan is to keep Hamas in Gaza and not let Israel win the war and force somehow a two-state solution. Hamas doesn't even want a two-state solution. Okay? It's Biden that wants it. Saudi Arabia wants it because Biden wants it, you know? So what does Biden do? He can decide he's going to do a ground incursion into the Houthis, which I would say would take minimum 4 to 6 weeks with 100,000 forces with all the air support and Navy ship missile support and helicopter support and reconnaissance flights and reconnaissance drones and blowing their underground bunkers and tunnels up. I would say if he gets lucky, 4 to 6 weeks, if not 8 to 12 weeks, no more than that. It wouldn't be a massive job for the Americans. UK would help them, and probably they would get another 5 or 10 countries to help them. They would accomplish it. There would be a lot of civilian deaths in Yemen, a lot of Houthi and Yemen regular forces dead. The damage done to Yemen would be, probably $200-300 billion, or maybe even $1 trillion. The cost of the war would be high, but it would open up the Red Sea shipping. I don't care if the nations bring another 100 ships into the Red Sea to shoot missiles and take down drones. It's not going to work. I don't see any way they're going to stop the Houthis from cutting the internet cables unless they assigned, maybe 300 or 400 small craft that the Navy has and the Coast Guard has to run around near the coast looking for divers. But how are you going to find divers at night? I mean, come on, they're not going to be able to study. The internet cable will go. Maybe Biden wants it to go. It'll cause financial havoc. $10 trillion a day in financial transactions moves through these lines, and that will be devastating to the nations, and it will also cause gold and silver to rally like you've never seen. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see gold go up to $5,000 an ounce and silver 75 or 100 an ounce. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I would expect it. The Panama Canal's in bad shape for natural reasons pertaining to drought. So a lake they use to fill the canal is depleted of water to a good extent, so the shipping is slowed down by months. So this is going to cause around the world, just the Red Sea shut down and the Panama Canal slowed down. Companies are going to run out of parts on time to continue manufacturing production. Food is going to take longer to get there and cost more. Everything's going to cost more. I don't know how many companies are still crazy enough to run ships through the Red Sea when there's attacks daily on ships. Yes, many times, many times they don't hit the ships, but every now and then even the Houthis get a good hit in. I don't believe they've ever hit a warship or caused any serious damage to a warship, let's put it that way. The 2 missing Navy SEALs, of course, we don't know exactly what happened. One was in the water, they say, and another one jumped in the water to save them, and they both drowned, apparently. Navy SEALs are fairly well drown-proof, but I guess if you can't see where they are and you got to look for them, but it's a funny story. Maybe the ship they were on got hit with a missile and they got blasted off the ship and hit the water unconscious and drowned. You know. This is a thought that comes to mind. We're not sure. The story sounds funny, but it could be true. I don't know what happened. So Biden is got some issues on top of his Texas border crisis. What's he going to do? So he could do nothing, and the problems there are pretty high. He can attack himself. He can't help Israel with more weapons without Congress approving the money, unless he finds a way to sneak money into Israel legally. He might be able to come up with some way to do that. I'm sure he's got a team of lawyers trying to figure that out. He might be able to give aid to another country who in turn gives aid to Israel, but I doubt that'll happen. It could. He also, the Congress wants him to give aid to Ukraine, and he doesn't want to do that. So at this point, if he does attack Lebanon and Gaza with Israel, it may increase tensions in the area. Probably 75% chance of that or more. But if he shuts down Hezbollah, and if he shuts down Hamas, there's maybe a 75% chance that the Houthis throw in the towel, and Iran throws in the towel, and the Iraq and Syria militias throw in the towel. It could very well happen because it's a lost cause. But that's a very bad gamble because it could go the other way. Maybe it's 50-50. You know, it's not sure. It's a 50-50. We don't know what they would do. They may give up if they say it's a lost cause, and they may bear down because they're going to be afraid they're mad. So the situation is bad for America, whatever they do at this point. The only thing that America could do that makes any sense is withdraw all their troops from the Middle East, which will make Iran happy, Iraq and Syria happy, Lebanon and Gaza happy. And the rich dictator king countries with a lot of oil will have to, you know, bow down to Iran, and that's Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. And this is something that Biden could do. Just say it's a joke. The Middle East is a farce, and we're not interested anymore. Israel, if we could get Congress to pass an aid bill to you, we'll do it. We're your friends. We love you, blah, blah, blah. But you're on your own. We're out of here. But not only is Israel on their own, the countries run by kings in the Middle East with all the oil are on their own. The warship that Iran has in the Red Sea is more than likely directing and guiding the missiles and the drones that the Houthis shoot into targets, or very minimally giving the GPS coordinates of the ships to the Houthis to go after. A ship that's maybe, most of these ships aren't that huge. They might be 500-600 feet, and they may be 120 feet wide, and they're moving with the ocean moving also, given the elevation and stuff like that, is not such a simple target to hit at distance. So the most sensible thing for them to do is absolutely what Biden's not going to do, and that's pull all the troops and military assets out of the Middle East and bring them home. There's 58,000 troops combined with Kuwait, Bahrain, I believe Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Syria, and Oman, and pull them all out, pull the planes out, pull everything out, and just let the Red Sea close, let Iran close the Mediterranean, let the Houthis cut the cables, and just go about his business. That is what he's not going to do. So it's either he finds a way to help Israel with money, gives Israel direct military support with American forces. The same for Lebanon, give Israel direct support with American forces and try to shut this thing down. He might think that's not such a bad idea because Netanyahu is probably telling him the only thing Hamas understands is brute force. If they're facing death and, going to prison for October 7th and, everything else, they might concede to just have a ceasefire, give the hostages back. Israel runs Gaza and stuff like that. Because they're still alive, they'll still get UN and foreign aid, and they could probably live in Gaza and hope for the best. That might stop the Houthis in Syria and Iraq and Iran. I don't know. Doesn't sound highly likely. Hamas is banking on people helping them. And that's why they don't want to throw the towel in. Israel, hour by hour, is whittling away at them by the hour. And they can only take that for so many hours, then there's nothing left. Right now, it seems that the rebuild in Gaza would be at least 3 years. It would probably be someplace around 100 to 500 billion, maybe 100, 200 billion. And they're looking for more permanent / temporary housing. Little like tents with metal structures and what's called a fly over it to make them more rain resistant, and a wood floor, and a couple of electrical outlets in there so they could run a heater and a hot plate for cooking and have lights and this type of thing. If any of you ever been to Yosemite National Park, they have such tents there. I stayed in many years ago. It's a wood floor, canvas tent that's waterproof. It has some electrical outlets in there. You have light bulb, stuff like that. And for toilets, they would build probably, every 60 or 100 yards, they'd put a collective toilet in, which would probably have, 8 or 10 or 12 toilets, 10 or 12 sinks, 10 or 12 shower stalls. One for the men, one for the women. Then they would have a trough where they could wash clothes, and which would be basically like a big metal sink, 2 or 3 feet, 2 or 3 feet deep. And they could, it have sections. They could fill it with water and put their clothes in there and, squeeze them, wring them out, wash them, stuff like that. In the heat of the summer would be a problem for them, but if they're out of the sun, it wouldn't be the end of the world. They could put fans in these tents, and, that's the direction this thing is going, because they realize the rebuild is tremendous. Netanyahu, for whatever reasons, the destruction of all the houses and stores and malls and mosques and schools and streets and sewage and water and electric has created a situation where it's almost unlivable to be there, but I don't know what's going to happen to them. I do know from the Bible they'll be bye-bye, but without going to the Bible, I don't know what will happen to them. It's very harsh to live there. Israel is not letting them come back to work in Israel. They're not opening the borders for them. Oh, they also want us to give medical assistance to all the sick people and the wounded Hamas soldiers as well, that we should, you know. So they're acting like it's our fault. And what's our fault is being alive while Jewish. That's enough for them. The fact that they started this war is irrelevant to them. Israel can't, and they also want captured soldiers returned. Israel can't take hostages from them. Let's say Israel said, okay, you know, and they grabbed Hamas hostages, which have surrendered. Hamas would just say, well, they're martyrs. Go kill them. They'll go to heaven. Go kill them. They know what they signed up for. It doesn't work. And then if the settlers in the West Bank grabbed Palestinian hostages and secreted them away, they would just say, go ahead, they're martyrs, go kill them. Or they would start killing the Israeli hostages, more likely. I don't know how many Israeli hostages there are, and I'm not so sure Israel does either. It might be 20 or 30. They're thinking best case 102 or 104, but it may not even be anywhere near there. It might not be anywhere near there. We don't know. The IDF has a number, but it's a guesswork number. They take the amount of hostages that were taken, and they deduct the amount that they know are dead, and that's how they arrive at the number. But do they really know how many are dead? See? So Hamas is hoping for something to happen, and what that something is, I don't know. Could Biden turn on Israel to force Israel to stop the fighting? Yes, he could. Will he do it? I expect he might. He would put American troops at the border with Gaza or inside Gaza and tell Israel, that's it, you can't fight anymore. Oh, and then he would tell Hamas that you got to give. Oh, they were saying they want 500 humanitarian aid trucks a day. You believe this? What do they want to do? Open up a chain of supermarkets, you know? So, you know, the chances of a ceasefire in anywhere resembling the immediate future are non-existent. So that means the Houthis are going to continue fighting against the shipping. Iran's going to keep up their activities, which are low-key right now. And Lebanon will keep up their activities. And the militias funded by Iran in Iraq and Syria will keep attacking American bases. That's where it's at right now. And people are going to grow very, very, very fatigued of Biden, which could lead to civil war, which open border Biden may be actually striving for. It destroys America consistent with the open borders, does it not? So that could be another underhanded move, you know. So at this point, what Israel's going to do is keep by the hour pounding Hamas. And they figure that, you know, you're going to be taking a lot of them as prisoner. That's what Israel's doing. They're going to surrender. And more tunnels will be destroyed. More and more weapons and missile launchers will be destroyed. They can hardly launch any missiles at us anymore. There's no chance of a ground incursion. And it's just a question of just grinding them down. That's all you can do. Meanwhile, the international community is not happy about the Red Sea, and they seem to be at this point wanting to pound Yemen, but that could change to wanting to pound Israel for not stopping the fighting. And that would also be another goal of Biden to turn more nations against Israel. But now they're touting the president of Argentina is here and he wants to move the embassy to Jerusalem. How the heck does that matter? To quote Humphrey Bogart, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans, you know? So that's the update. I think it's important, and That's it. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.